Let's have a look at dimensioning in ArchiCAD. I would suggest having a look at two ways of dimensioning. The first one looks very impressive because it does it very quickly. I don't necessarily think it's a substitute for dimensioning in the second way I'm going to show you, but nonetheless it's quite a quick way of dimensioning simple buildings. So this is referred to as auto dimensioning. What you do is you select the walls, in this case the walls that I want to dimension. I'm going to select them. You can also, by the way, have the wall tool on, and ArchiCAD has a shortcut method of selecting things. So if my wall tool is on, I can go to the edit menu and select all walls, and it's a relatively quick way of selecting all of those elements. Then for auto dimensioning, you go to the Documents pull down menu, down to Document Extras, and to Automatic Dimensioning. I want exterior dimensions, and basically I think the default setting is quite okay. We want to dimension structures, external geometry, overall dimensions, and just make sure this one here, place dimensions on all four sides. This is the dimension lines are going to be 500 mils apart. The way it works is you say OK, you click a face of the wall that you want to set, and then you click how far away from that wall you want the first dimension line to be. So it's just a roundabout, distance about that far, and it will place dimensions on all four sides of the building. It uses the settings in the dimensions settings. You'll notice that there is a dimension tool there. So if you want these things to change, then make sure that you set up these settings the way you want before you use automatic dimensioning. You can see that it dimensions, it's got four basic lines. Just to make sure we're all talking about the same thing, this is referred to as the dimension line. This line here is referred to as the witness line, and these markers are usually thicker than these lines here. You'll notice that as you drag, say, a window or a door around, I am going to use the Control D keyboard command to drag. To select windows and doors. They sometimes are tricky. The center or the edge of the door is always a good place to select it from. Control D for drag. I can move that door around, and you can see that what happens is the dimensions update. I can also move that door around in the 3D window, and it will also update. So any of the windows are all interconnected. So if I drag, I hit O, by the way, for orbit, I can select, say, this door over here, and again drag, Control D on the keyboard, and I can drag that window or that door around, and it should update in the 2D window as well. So I could have done that F2, by the way, back to floor plan, and you can see that that door has been there, and these have all updated as well. That's a fairly quick way of dimensioning. Bear in mind that it picks up a lot of mistakes. So if walls don't intersect properly, or they miss each other by a millimeter or something, you'll get those sorts of mistakes being reflected in your dimensioning. If you model carefully, then the dimensions work. It is important that you understand also how to alter these dimensions manually. So I think I might also run through how to dimension manually, because sometimes that's important as well. So I'm going to select the dimension tool, which is here, and then go up into edit and select all dimensions, and I'm going to delete. And then I want to run through how to manually dimension things for you, because that's also important to know. So again, in the dimension tool, what I normally do is set up an overall dimension. So let's say I want a dimension from this corner through to that corner there. And I click once down here, once over here, and then a double click over here allows you to, I think the analogy is to hammer down the dimension. So I'll put it here, and then I'm going to select that dimension line, and I'm going to use a drag copy command. So you Control D on the keyboard for drag, and as you start to drag, just hit the Control key again, and you'll notice that there's a plus sign next to my cursor now. So what I'm doing is actually dragging a copy of that dimension line. Okay, there is a slightly quicker way of doing that, but I won't get into it again. I'll do it again, Control D for drag, and then hit Control again, and we'll put a copy of that in there again. So I've got 3 dimension lines, and what I'm going to do is add dimensions to each one of those. So I'm going to select that first. I'm holding the Shift key down, by the way. While you're in a tool, if you want to select something, you need to hold the Shift key. As I've said earlier, it temporarily turns that tool into a selecting tool. So I select, holding the Shift key, I select that dimension line, and I want to add dimensions to that dimension line. So what I do is I hold the Control key down, and then you click points on the wall that you want to add to that dimension line. So this is the overall dimensions. I might click that point there. Okay, and it adds that dimension to that dimension line. Next, let's say I want to dimension window openings. So I select that dimension line, hold the Control key down again, and I can go through and add, say, that point there, that point there, that point there, and that point there. Okay, and let's say this one is internal dimensions. So I select that dimension line, holding the Control key, I want to dimension all the walls. Now notice you don't have to click both edges of walls. What ArchiCAD does is automatically pick up the thickness of any wall that you click on. So I'll click these points here. So that's manual dimensions. You also need to know how to adjust and alter some of these things, and I'll just point a couple of these things out. So for example, let's say I wanted to manually change a number. I can select that number. You'll notice that there is a little mark just next to the toe of that bit of text. You can select just the text itself. It's selected it as a text tool, and you'll notice that in the info box I can go and set it to a custom text, where you can add a figure to the beginning or the end of that number, or you can change that number altogether. So for example, 9770 instead of 9777. Okay, I can alter that. Bear in mind that that is not changing the actual dimension, so keep that clear. You're just fudging the number. Okay, so if you're out by a millimeter and you want to fix something up, I personally think it's better to try and fix the model the dimensions will update automatically, but that's a better way of doing it. You can also do things like, for example, get rid of that point and it'll amalgamate those two numbers. So I can select that point on its own. You notice this line has gone green. Hit the delete key and that has amalgamated those two numbers. You can delete a dimension altogether. So you notice the cursor will pick up the center point of these 2 points, and you can delete that whole dimension altogether. Okay. I think that's about it. You can also, by the way, drag, selecting the number, Control D on the keyboard, you can drag these numbers around and set them out a little bit more, a little bit better if you want, if they're not sitting correctly. But that's about all I'd like to cover in dimensioning.